Right, the big wins in the Champions League might be all well and good, but Newcastle United need to get back to the bread and butter against an injury-struck Fulham at St James's Park. And I don't like to make big statements, but this feels very much must win. The full match preview is coming up, Newcastle fans, so do us a favour and make sure you stick around. Welcome back to Black White Banter, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all is well and everyone has recovered from what was a lovely bit of evening of football, wasn't it? It was a delight at St James's Park as Jose Mourinho left with less nice things to say about the St James's Park atmosphere. Shock. The loving before the game for everything he was saying was lovely. Not so nice when he's on the end of a 3-0 defeat saying that St James's Park was quiet. But anyway, before we get into the bread and butter, as I worded at the start of this video, in our league match against Fulham, do me a little favour. Get Black White Banter across all social media, where I've just, in the last 24 hours, posted a very angry rant about Steve Bruce and the amount of rubbish that's come out of his mouth on a recent podcast. And make sure you whack that little likey loo on this video. You would be shocked at how far that helps this video go to more people in the build-up to the game. And as soon as the game's done, nobody's going to watch a match preview, so help me out and whack that subscribe. If anyone's going to the game on Saturday, a lovely traditional 3 o'clock, I am going to be in the Prince Bar, which is just up the back street near Revolution when you come out the station and turn right. It's 2-for-1 beers and there's some lovely drops. Anyone who likes Blue Moon or Star of Pramen, 2-for-1 pints, live band on, and I'm going to be on the stage answering a couple of bits and bobs. So come in, have a bit banter, we'll have a bit dance. We might even have a couple of cheeky shots. The Prince Bar, check it out. So, Newcastle United are back in league action against what I will say is the nicest team, one of the nicest teams in the country. I've always seen Fulham as such a strange side. Like, is there anyone in the country, honestly, who hates Fulham? They are the gin and tonic of football teams amongst many beers and ales and ciders. It's a stereotype, but I think it's actually a very true one that they are posh. I mean, even the fact that at Craven Cottage there is basically a home and away stand where both sets of fans mix tells you the full story. It's so weird. Like, I can be stood waiting for a pint in the away end, but in a line with Fulham fans who are talking to you about the game. Just a very unique fan base, football club. No one really has too much of a bad word to say about them. And as far as I understand, they've sold out on Saturday. So well-supported Fulham team, so fair play. But they have had a very indifferent start to the season. They are currently on a 3-match losing streak and they are 1 point behind us. And if anything tells you about where Newcastle's league form has been this season, it's the fact that I'm describing Fulham as having an indifferent start to the season and being on a bit of a bad run. And we're only 1 point behind. Look, Newcastle have played better than what some of the results have given. I think Brighton, we were maybe worthy of a point, but we just weren't good enough overall. Arsenal was cruel. Liverpool was cruel. But that's, all ifs, buts and maybes. If me auntie had bollocks, as my dad used to say, she'd be my uncle. So we need, and I said at the start, and I don't like to make big statements, Fulham at home is must win anyway. Last season, we had a massive problem not winning these sorts of matches. We got beat against Bournemouth when we were on an incredible unbeaten run. We lost to Fulham. Brighton came, of course they did, and took points at St James's Park when we missed chances. These are the sort of matches when we've got a bit of momentum now after that win on Tuesday that we simply need to win. And that league table will look a hell of a lot healthier if we do. And the reason we need to win even more so is because of the injuries. An injury-struck Fulham side that already had a pretty awful, diabolical, you might say, transfer window. And I'm sure Marco Silva would say the same, where they didn't really sign anyone until the last couple of days. But their injuries going into this are shocking. Robinson, Anderson, Lukic, Chukwueze and Muniz, who scored against us at St James's Park last season, don't forget, are all unavailable. And in midfield as well, someone who was playing for them in their last match against Arsenal, Tom Kearney, is looking doubtful. They are injury-stricken, and Anderson is the latest blow for them, a player that was heavily linked with Newcastle in the summer. He's a massive loss in their defence. And to be totally honest with you, I watched a little bit of their match against Aston Villa in their last away game, and it was substitutions that crippled them. Their lack of options off the bench. They were 1-0 up. They pressed quite high, and we'll touch on how they play in a second. Aston Villa in the second half made changes, but Buendia came on and scored almost straight away, and Fulham just did not have them options. And you are now looking at a team that's going to have second choice starters all over the pitch on Saturday. Low on confidence after 3 defeats. There is simply no other result that I want to see, no matter what the performance is like, no matter how we do it, than 3 points at St James's Park at 5 o'clock. It has to be done. So as always in these videos, let's look at things from a little bit of a tactical point of view. Well, who should Newcastle play and how should we set up against this Fulham side? Well, as I've just mentioned, it'll be a very different Fulham team than what their first choice would be, much to Marco Silva's frustration. But after what I saw on Tuesday, look, Sandro Tonali, Eddie Howe has confirmed as I'm recording this that he's still unwell and he's touch and go for Saturday. I'm going to be totally honest with you. From what I saw, maybe it's... Look, Sandro Tonali is arguably our best footballer, most consistent without a doubt. He is absolutely class. And that new contract had me jizzing in my pants, which is not a phrase I should probably be using on this video. But I'd go with Lewis Miley again in this one. I really, really would. I've been a big advocate of Lewis Miley. I thought the criticism he got in his performance against Bournemouth was really harsh. He was clearly doing a job to free up Tonali and just sit. I thought on Tuesday, yes, he misplaced a couple of passes in the first half. Yes, he got shrugged off the ball on a couple of occasions, but the lad is still needing consistent minutes and he's 19. But how he can sit and how he can rotate with Bruno, and I'll share some images on the screen on the positions he took up. The second half, you saw Miley press much higher as Bruno did, and again, those two rotated. Do not underestimate sitting a player in front of a back four who's happy to do so. Recycle a football, watch for danger, and just play it out and do the simple thing. How much that frees up a creative Bruno to put those defence-splitting passes in. And there's a stat on Bruno's defence-splitting passes and Newcastle coming up in this video, so make sure you stick around for that. I think it's a great option. And if you look at how Fulham set up, very similar to what Brighton did last week, they will play a 4-2-3-1. And that rigid 3, it just cut us apart against Brighton. It really, really did. Those passes in behind. We needed someone to be sat in because one pass cannot split our midfield to defence. It just cannot happen in the Premier League. And that's what Fulham will be looking to do with the likes of King, their young starlet who started. He's actually kept Emile Smith-Rowe out the team. The likes of Iwobi. We'll talk about him a little bit in this video as well. Those are the sorts of players that are going to try and roam between the lines and make things happen and link up with Jimenez up top. So I'm more than happy with Lewis Miley to play. I would go as far as to say if Sandro Tonali passes fit for this one, there's still a place in this team for Lewis Miley because I think Tonali and Bruno can offer that creativity and legs. But down that left-hand side, I'd be struggling to see which one could play then support the attack in the right way because Ramsey or Joe Linton, and I think there's so much good from Ramsey going to come. Joe Linton looked good when he came on, but he needs to pick up the pace on how his season started. One of them should maybe slot in there. But again, that could work really, really well. Now, where do I see Newcastle doing really well in this match? It's got to be in wide areas. It really, really has to be in wide areas. I've never been a huge fan of Castagne. I'm butchering a Belgium player there, so sorry. If any Union SG fans who I had the pleasure of meeting in the Champions League are watching this, I apologise. When he was at Leicester, I know he's been at Fulham a couple of years now. He plays a fair bit for Belgium. I think Anthony Gordon can have him. If we see the same Anthony Gordon we saw on Tuesday, which was a massive performance from him and much the Anthony Gordon that we've been craving, he can have him. Now, on the other side, even more so, Sessegnon looks like he will play for Fulham instead of Robinson, who I'm a massive fan of, and he's a massive loss for them. He's a really, really good footballer, Robinson. I think he played... If memory serves me correctly, he played brilliantly against us at Craven Cottage last season when they beat us 3-1. Jacob Murphy's got to play. He's making that right-hand side his own. But the balls we can get him behind, trust me when I say that Sessegnon is better up the other end of the pitch than what he is defending. I don't think Fulham fans, from what I've read in forums in the build-up to this match, I don't think Fulham fans want to see him defending. They want to see him playing on the left-hand side of a midfield or as a much higher wing-back. Those are the areas. Now, in terms of space, Voltemada, I think, with no Anderson especially, there's going to be massive gaps. And I think, if looking at the highlights from when they lost 3-1 to Aston Villa, not so much the Arsenal game where Fulham started quite fast and, it was quite a tight game at times. Aston Villa found space after space after space. I would like to hope Voltemada can win his battles and link up, and some of our roaming players, the Ramseys potentially, insert Ramsey here, or the Gordons and the Murphys can play in behind. But wide areas, as is always normally the case for Newcastle, if everyone is firing and supporting them in the right way, that's where this game can certainly be won, and that's where Fulham will probably be fearing us after what they saw against Benfica on Tuesday. Anyway, let's get into the, yeah, you guessed it, one to watch, like? Black and white banners, one to watch. You know, like that one you should keep an eye on, like. Yes, this is the part of the match preview where I give you one player from the opposing side that we need to keep a very specific magnifying glass on as fans in the stands. And it was a difficult one for me. A lot of the ones I've done so far, I've said like, oh, obviously Mo Salah. I've gone for the one that you would expect. In this one, it was difficult because I think King has looked impressive and he is going to be that roaming player in the central area. He's going to be the central player of their front midfield three, just behind Jimenez. That's where I think Fulham fans like to see him play. But I've got to go for Alex Iwobi, who will actually be making, random fact for you, he'll become the first Nigerian player to make 300 appearances in the Premier League tomorrow. So fair play. Shola Iwobi might be giving him a little fair play, son. Fair play, son. So a little random stuff for you there. But Alex Iwobi, on his day, can be a good player. And I think Fulham fans, with all the injuries they've got, will be looking to him to make things happen on Saturday. And need I remind any Newcastle fan about what he did for Everton in the 99th minute on that famous match where the Just Stop Oil guy stuck himself to the post and had to be cut away. We were absolutely devastated leaving that stadium after he got that last minute goal with 9 minutes of injury time. Just Stop Iwobi's t-shirt should have said. So I do think there's a good player in there. He's going to want to roam. That's where that holding midfielder might be important. Dan Burn might have a bit of a job on, as he's going to continue to do until we get our fullbacks back. Let me know yours in the comments, but that's certainly mine. But anyway, let's now get into some lovely little black and white banter stats. Stats. Only Burnley and Sunderland have registered less shots on target than Fulham this season with 23. So they are not a team who are doing too well at hitting the target, which of course, as I always say on these stats, I am responsible for being the biggest jinx. Fulham's current average of 2.9 shots on target per game is the lowest ever recorded in a Premier League campaign. Good omen. And here's a one that I maybe found interesting, because I'm a bit of a boffin like that. Newcastle United currently lead the charts for the most defence-splitting passes between the lines out of any other side in the Premier League with 61. And interestingly, Bruno, who we saw did it against Benfica on Tuesday with that pass to Jacob Murphy, is leading the way in the Premier League for most of those. He's got 15 defence-breaking passes. So, you know, I was very vocal in saying that we need to see more from Bruno that we see in Brazil when he got them 2 lovely assists. But sometimes when you're watching a match, things can go under the radar. And Bruno, that is an incredible stat to lead, to be playing them passes. It shows his accuracy. It shows his creative brain. Long may that continue, and I want to see more of that tomorrow against these fullbacks. And lastly, it's a bit of a quiz time. Last week, I gave a quiz question, very similar sort of talk about Nick Voltemada and goals, and nobody in the comments got it right. So if you've stuck around this long, I'm going to test your brains now. Nick Voltemada has got 4 goals in 5 Premier League appearances. Only 3 Newcastle players have ever got 5 goals in 6 or less Premier League appearances. Those are Loic Remy, who was last week's answer that nobody got. Got to remember him. What a loan signing he was. Les Ferdinand. And who else? Get in the comments and let me know who the third one is. I'm curious whether anyone can get it this week. That's my stats. Let's hope Nick Voltemada does join that lovely exclusive club. Right, it's score prediction time. This is the part of the video I always hate because I don't often get these right. I don't think anyway. I'd have to look at my record so far this season. I'm going to go for 3-0 Newcastle. I know that sounds brave. I've got to trust that momentum is going to be carried over. I've got to trust that Jacob Murphy is back in the team and he's offering so much since he came back in against Brighton in the second half and Tuesday. Anthony Gordon, let's see more of the same. And Nick Voltemada, just keep linking up and learning your teammates and doing exactly what you do, you beautiful German so-and-so. 3-0 Newcastle. Fulham down on confidence and down on players at the moment as well. Get down, let me know your predictions below. If anyone wants to come and speak to me and jump on a YouTube interview after the game and give me your thoughts, which is always great to meet new fans and get your opinions, top of the steps at the Milburn statue. And if you've stuck around this long, give us a like, whack that subscribe and get me across all social media. Now let's go and beat Fulham! If you don't know what film that's from, you're not a real Newcastle fan. Keep the faith, Newcastle fans, and as always, how are the lads?
Oh!